Okay, this how-to video is going to go through how to configure a Windows compliant ODBC database with OrCAD Capture CIS. So what I want to do here is join my Windows compliant database, so that can be effectively a Microsoft Excel file, a Microsoft Access file, or an SQL database. And we'll do an ODBC data source link with that, and then we'll go through the configuration wizard inside OrCAD Capture CIS to be able to connect to that. So if we go to any computer, we'll go to the control panel, there's something called administrative tools, and then here is ODBC data sources, 64-bit. So obviously 17.2 onwards is 64-bit, so we need to make sure we're using that. Go to the system DSN, here's effectively the drivers that are available to us. So when we click on the add button, we've got effectively an access driver here for MDB ACCDB types, or the Excel types, or the SQL driver types. Now there might be some instances, depending on whether you've got a 32-bit or 64-bit Microsoft Office installed on your computer, as to whether you'll actually have access to these drivers. If you can't see the MDB or the Excel links here to be able to access them, what you need to do is install the driver options that are available from Microsoft. There's actually an app note, so if you go to the parallel-systems.co.uk/guides webpage, under the OrCAD Capture CIS section, there's a Capture CIS data sources. So there's a user guide, and we go through kind of what needs going on as regards to kind of needing to be 64-bit versus 32-bit. There's a link here from Microsoft where you can actually go and download the driver except from Microsoft, and then you need to make sure that you run this downloaded executable from a DOS command prompt with the /passive switch as is shown in this app note, and that will then give you the access to be able to do it. So once you've got your data source that you're interested in, now the database I have is a Microsoft Access database, so I'm just going to choose the Microsoft Access database here. We'll click on Finish. I can then give it a name, so MyDB. Description, I'm just going to use exactly the same name. And then we're going to select a database to choose, so typical browsing through Windows. And there's my database file, so I click OK. That's my selection, that's all I need to do. Click OK there, and then what happens is that then becomes a system data source, so I've got a MyDB option here. Okay, so we'll click OK to that. And if we go to OrCAD Capture CIS, let's just do a quick new design. What I can do here is I can go to the options menu, CIS configuration. Now I want to do a new one, so I click on the new option, and then I get the wizard come up. So this will walk me through what I need to do. So if I start and click on next, this is a list of all those data sources that are available to me. So there's my DB one. We'll click on next. Here you would effectively choose the tables that are in your database itself. So in mine I've got quite a few tables here. In general you'd probably pick all of these tables to be able to do that, but just for speed I'm just going to go and let's just do 3. So we'll do capacitors, diodes and ICs. We'll click on next. I then need to configure some of the key properties. So a CIS database has to have 4 key properties at least. That's part number, value, part type and schematic part. So we need to kind of map effectively, these are the key property values on the left hand side. These are the properties that are available in my database table itself. So in my database I've got properties with all these name headings. So I've got a part number 1, I've got a value property. You have to do this for each of the tables. This is for the capacitors, this is for the diodes, this is for the ICs. The next thing I need to do is the part type and the schematic parts. The same scenario, you need to have a property matching that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the same name, but it has to contain the same kind of data. So I could just call it schematic part type here, for example, and as long as I map it to the schematic part, that would effectively make the map. So you go through those tables again, so capacitors, diodes and ICs. Do I want to then transfer something like a PCB footprint? Yes, I do. So I have a footprint called PCB footprint in my database. So I'll go and pick that. Do I want to do the same for a PSpice model? Yes, I do. And in this one, I've got something called PSpice template. So I'll choose that one. I'll click next. I'm going to do that for the 3 tables again. This is then just a summary of what properties are going to be transferred through to the design, so you can enable or disable other properties. So part number, value, and PCB footprint. So if you double click on a part to look at the property editor, what properties do I want to see? I might also want to see description here, and you can also choose if you wanted to choose things like number of pins, operation temperature, whatever you've got in your database. If you want to transfer those properties and see them, you can enable it in this form. We'll click on next here. Do I have any browsable properties? So a browsable property is something that will give you like a hyperlink link. So if you had something like a datasheet link, for example, I haven't in this specific database, so I'm not going to do anything, but if you had a database or a datasheet link, you could have that here and select it as a browsable property, and then it would be available as a hyperlink. This is just kind of a summary of the properties that are going to be transferred. And then the final one is the key property. What's the key property in your database? So if you're doing a search for a part in Part Manager or CIS, it's always going to look for a key property here, and by default value is the one, so I'm going to leave that as it is. We'll then click on finish. I then get effectively the configure database window appear, so I can actually make changes to anything that I've done here already, and you can see effectively this is just listing it out per table. So I can choose to which properties, if I wanted to change other things that I wanted to be transferred or visible, I can do that here. There's the browsable ones, there's the key property list, so you can actually make a lot of the changes here as well. There's an administrative preferences tab that allows you to adjust whether you want to add like a TMP part number. If you're doing design variants, do I want to have what property do I want to see when I have a part not fitted or not present? So you could say not fitted here, or part not present, DNI, whatever you want to do here by default. There's also a relational database option here, so I can choose effectively your relational database options. So what's my key property? My primary key is going to be part number for the 3 tables that I chose. And then the relational table effectively is going to be CIS manufacturing parts. That's the one I've got specifically. You may have different names for tables, but that's working for my one. So I'll click OK to that. It then wants me to go and save it. So we'll just go and browse off to where I want to store the file. Let's call this MyDB. We'll then save that and OK. And that's it set up now. So when I effectively go to place and database part, there's MyDB. There's the 3 tables that I added. So we'll just click through all the parts. There's a link to the part, so I effectively get a schematic part preview, I get a PCB footprint preview, I get my relational database here, so obviously you can see I've got my CIS manufacturing parts table and all the different values for the parts that I need. So that's the basic configuration process. Take it on your own database. Obviously a lot of it depends on your database property headings that you're using, but if you try and be consistent, you should be good to go.